this is Melanie Ross, and I just wanted to have a conversation with you about mentoring conversations. The whole process of mentoring is based on dialogue, and quite often what I see happening is that people get together in their mentoring partnerships and flail and have conversations that maybe don't produce results, or they may just be unsure about how to conduct a conversation, particularly when they have to meet over a period of time for a set period of time. So what I thought would be useful would be to go over the mentoring conversations process for you to give you some structure and purpose to the dialogue that you'll be having. Our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviours, our actions each impact on our interpersonal skills, and it also impacts on how others assess our leadership capability. Many a potential high flyer has had their career come unstuck simply because of the impact they're unaware that they're having in the workplace. So one of the objectives of mentoring is to enable the person being mentored to reflect on her own thoughts and behaviour and actions, and to be able to develop insights around that. Another key objective is to deepen and expand the thinking processes by using exploratory questioning techniques. So by being questioned and challenged, we're able to gain clarity faster and better than simply relying on our own devices. That clarity could be a sense of direction, it could be a particular focus of discussion, it could be a course of action, a decision. Doesn't matter. By questioning and challenging a mentoree, a mentor develops that person's independence of thought and helps them to extend and expand their thinking processes, which helps their interpersonal skills, which helps their development capabilities as a leader. So mentoring conversations improve and get better results when you have a structured process in place. Now, there are a number of models you can use to hold a mentoring conversation. What I'd like to do is present one to you here, and that model is the GROW model, GROW, which is an acronym for Goal, Reality, Options and Will. And let me explain this to you. The GROW model is a simple but really powerful framework for structuring conversations, not just in mentoring, but we're only focused here on that process. The model was devised by Sir John Whitmore back in the 80s, and it's really stood the test of time as a useful and productive focused conversation model, and it's widely used and taught today as a very functional dialogue. I use it frequently in my coaching sessions. So the principle that's based on here is, number one, you need to know where you're going. What are you aiming for? What's the objective? What is the goal? So number one is G for goal, which is where are we heading here? What are we trying to achieve? Number two is reality, which is about exploring where you are now. What's the current situation? Number three is O, which is options, and that's about exploring the various directions and options available to you to move between reality and the goal. Finally, the fourth one is called will, or if you look at some models online you'll find it uses what or where, but I like will because it's about committing to action and overcoming obstacles and implementing the rest of the discussions that you've been having. So this model of structured conversation really works whether the focus is on setting goals or on resolving a problem or even making a decision. By using the model, you as a mentoring partner will have a much more productive and satisfying meeting. Let me take you a little bit more deeply into this model. So the focus moves around the circle. So it's a sequential process. It doesn't tend to jump from one to the other. It moves logically from goal to reality to options to will, and then you reset another goal and then move around the circle again. So it's very much a circular process. The time frame that you might use this model could be over the term of one meeting, or it could be over the entire series of mentoring sessions that you're having with someone, particularly if you're in a prescribed program where you're meeting over a period of, say, 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, whatever. So it's up to the mentoring partners to determine the time frame, but the process still remains the same. So the purpose of G is to set the goal. It's about finding direction. It's about clarifying the goals, the way forward, And it's about testing the validity of those goals. So if you're a mentoree, it helps you to come prepared to the first few sessions with some ideas about where you want to go, whether it's what you want to achieve from that meeting or what you want to achieve from the whole mentoring process in terms of an outcome. It could be that as a mentor you come to that meeting with a set of questions that you can use to explore and tease out from the mentoree where they want to be heading, what they want to be doing, where do they want to be in a few years' time, how do they see their career developing over that period. If they could have choices of 3 directions, what would be those 3 directions? A number of questions you could have around looking at that, and part of your role as a mentor is to help them assess whether that goal is appropriate, whether it's achievable, whether it's something that's really going to give them the motivation to proceed and implement an action plan. So the critical thing is getting clear on what the goal is. If you get that wrong, the rest of the discussions tend to wander around a little bit as well. So the more time you spend on really getting to the core of what someone's wanting to take away from this meeting or this whole process, once you've got that really crystal clear and you can see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, you can see what the end result is, that you can identify how you would measure that, how you would know you've achieved the end result, much clearer that you get on that, the better the rest of the whole mentoring process goes. If you don't spend enough time on assessing the goal and really exploring that, then your discussions tend to not end up with an end result. And what I find is that we get to the end of a mentoring program and someone will say, well, yeah, it didn't really do a lot for me, we had nice chats, because it didn't get clarified up front what the end outcome was going to be. So really I implore you to spend a fair bit of time exploring that goal, and don't think just because you've come up with an answer that that's the answer. Sometimes even digging deep when you've already got what you think is the outcome just checks in to make sure that that is what you're looking for. So hopefully that's clear. We then move into reality. So we're looking at what's the current reality. What's the current situation you're in? So are you in the particular role you're in? Are you at a particular level? Do you have the right qualifications for what you're currently at? Where are the skill gaps that you might have? Where are the knowledge gaps that you might have? How smooth is your path at the moment? How clear is the way forward in terms of where you want to go to? What is the gap between where you are now and where you want to be from point 1, the grow goal? So it's about looking at where your strengths are, and you can look at strengths 2 ways. One is you can look at the strengths and the weaknesses and focus on building up the weaknesses. My preference is to focus on the strengths and leverage those strengths so that they become really strong strengths, if there's such a phrase, to be able to utilize those strengths so the weaknesses aren't such a concern anyway. Much better to build on solid foundations than try and shore everything up. So reality is about checking in, where are you at now? And there's a lot of questions that you could spend 2 or 3 sessions just really digging around in that space. So it's about really then moving into options once you've clarified where your direction is and where you currently stand. It's then a matter of looking, okay, what are the options? Where do we go from here? What could we do? What are the possibilities? So it's about brainstorming. It's about canvassing options. It's about looking at how valid and viable are those options. So if you've got 3 or 4 options that appear equally okay, sit down and analyse. Okay, so what would happen if you followed this option? What would happen if you followed this option? What would happen if you followed this option? What are the consequences? What are the inputs that are required for each of those options? What's possibly going to give you the best result? Where are the barriers in that process? And identifying where your resources are. So how resourceful are you in yourself as a mentoree to meet those objectives you're looking for? Or what other resources can you access? Do you have networks? Do you have networks that your mentor can help you with? Are there resources in the organisation you're not quite aware of? Asking questions is a good part of that. So options is really about exploring and canvassing. That could be a really quick conversation, but in most cases it can be quite a lengthy conversation over 2 or 3 sessions. The 4th point in the GROW model is will, and that's about, okay, we're clear on where we're going. We understand where we are at now. We know what our options are, and we've really made a decision on which is the best way forward. So it's now about, okay, let's get action happening. Let's check what the schedule of implementation is. What do we need to do, by when, by whom? What are the best ways forward? What's the very next thing that you have to do to be able to move forward towards that objective? And finally, let's test out your level of commitment. So, if you've said that you want to achieve this objective in 6 months, what if you made that 4 months? What would have to happen? Is that something you really are prepared to do? What if you find that you get to month 3 and there's a big black road in front of you and you can't see your way forward? What do you look at doing then? So it's about testing that level of commitment that you have going forward, because if you're not really committed to that goal and you're just mentally committed, then what you will find is your motivation will lag. So the GROW model really does help both the mentor and the mentoree to construct and put a framework behind their conversations rather than just having a discussion. So the GROW model can work, as I said, in one little session. So you could say, okay, out of this particular next hour or 2, whatever time frame you're looking at spending with your mentoring partner, what do we want to achieve from that? Do we want to do this, do this, do this? What do we want to achieve from this particular meeting? Okay, so where are we up to? What's our current reality? Okay, so what can we do going forward? Great, now let's look at what we're going to decide to do. So that could be an hour or 2 hour discussion if you're looking at something small and immediate. If you're looking longer term over the course of the entire program, finding a goal could be 2, 3, 4 sessions. It could be really exploring that part of it and doing even some assessments to see if that's what you really want to do. Reality could be 2 or 3 or 4 sessions, just to really explore where you're at the moment and whether you've got the capabilities and where the strengths are that you do have and where the gaps are and how you might achieve those to be smaller. Options could be 1 or 2 sessions easily. It could even be that's where perhaps a lot of the work outside the mentoring occurs, where the mentoree might do some research and dig around, go and interview people, go and discuss things with people, try and explore and find things outside the current set of knowledge. And then over the period of that program that you would be involved in the mentoring, it's about making sure that you commit to those actions and you deliver them, and your mentor will help to hold you accountable, but ultimately you need to be accountable to yourself. So the mentor's role in that sense is to just help you make sure that you're taking actions that are appropriate, that they're going to meet the goal that you're wanting to meet, that they're strategic, and that you have got the capacity to be able to implement those actions and those plans. So the GROW model is really one that's highly commended for the purposes of mentoring, because it does provide a framework around what you're going to be achieving. The exercise I have for you as a result of this is to sit down, perhaps on your own or with another person who's in your similar situation. So if you're a mentor, find 1 or 2 other mentors. If you're a mentoree, find 1 or 2 other mentorees, and sit down and brainstorm a group of questions for each of those elements of the process. So what kind of questions might you ask if you're in the goal setting stage of mentoring? So, what kind of things? Where do you want to be in 2 to 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Are you looking at moving from operational to strategic? Are you looking at moving from specialist to management? What would be the best option in that sense in terms of what your future might look like? So it's about really looking at what sort of questions could you ask someone, whether you're the mentoree or the mentor, to be able to help flesh out the goal setting stage, to get clear on what you want there. Come up with a few questions around testing for current reality. So where are you now? What are the things that are important to you now? What activities are you undertaking now? Those sorts of questions. So come up with a group of questions for that. Options, come up with a group of questions for exploring options. And then finally come up with a group of questions that will help you explore the will. Now, I'd suggest if you could come up with 5 to 10 questions for each of those sessions, so that you would end up with 20 to 40 questions. That's good. That's a good tool to have in your back pocket when you go next to meet your mentoring partner, to be able to have some conversations and some clarity around those discussions that you will have. So have those questions handy, write them up, check in with some other mentorees or some other mentors that you're equal with, and be able to bounce those ideas around with them about whether those questions are good ones for setting goals, checking reality, exploring options, and determining the way forward in terms of your will. So I commend that to you. Look forward to seeing you do that exercise. And once you've come up with those questions, come back to the website and we'll have some suggestions for you. But you don't get those until you've done the exercise. Okay, this has been Melanie Ross. I look forward to your progress. Speak to you again soon.